are. You're me.
Bess is a swashbuckler rogue
Yeah.
fighter, scout. No, arcane archer.
David and I
So
might
she's
Okay. So,
and happy to tell you, Zano is a draconic sorcerer.
yeah.
He has one or all fire spells.
All right. Shh.
Clint's not in it because
You're DMing.
You gotta do one of these call things.
I'm here to DM that.
The teachers do to get their students' attentions.
I'm going. Yeah, I'll get my lightning out again in a minute. So, at the end of the last time we were in Barovia, so some of you have been elsewhere as other people, but Vash and Harleen spent a relatively quiet morning with a lot of kids in the bar, trying to figure out what to do with a wooden doll's head that looks exactly like Harleen, that she's not supposed to have, that she wants to find out about, but now the toy shop's been trashed and we've got to work out how you can ask about it without somebody knowing that you stole it. While the rest of you went to find out whether there were any problems at the orphanage that would stop you sending all the rest of the kids back there. You discovered that Celia Belascu, the owner of the witch bitch, owner of the orphanage, was actually quite a nice lady who didn't know that the pie ladies were dangerous pie ladies and was quite traumatized at the fact that those terrible things had happened. Everyone rolled insight on her.
I think I got 32 or something like that.
Yeah, they did check. And she's pretty strict, but otherwise cares a lot. The main problem turned out to be some young lad that had moved into the orphanage, having had both of his parents die, had been pushing kids out of the window. There had been some unexplained deaths. He was a bit nasty. It turned out he was possessed by a demon. So a small fight with two giant eagles and some other bits and pieces ensued. Slayed the demon. Saved the child. Freed the orphanage from its terror. While you were there, you also found Milovich, who works at the church, who was very sick, probably from some kind of demonic goings on, and a young orphan called Jeska, who also works sometimes up at the church. And so you've sorted that out. I'm going to say that you guys have decided to take all these kids and wander up to said orphanage to find out where they've been, because they've been gone a good chunk of the morning, and you reconvene outside the front of the orphanage, next door to the big church of St. Andrel, which you may remember was where you were planning on potentially dropping Irina at some point, who's the NPC you've been sort of intermittently carrying around. Okay. So you're all outside the orphanage, together with a large collection of orphans, two giant eagles, a large collection of orphans, and Mrs. Belascu being very grateful that you have freed this young boy from his terrible demonic possession and has sworn to look after these children to the best of her best ability. What would you like to do?
Or was reporting the kids to her?
I think
So you've all reconvened.
I think that's the best. There were some problems with the orphanage, but we've done a thorough inspection, some pest control, and I think it's going to be a good place now.
I'll return to the kid and do you want to go back?
Well, if that's, and then Felix sort of wanders out looking very pale and very shaken. Well, I'm not sure if he's still here. Yeah, the kid survived. You slayed his demon, but
really?
He collapsed unconscious when you freed the
I
demon.
really turned into smoke.
No, that was the demon.
Wonderful.
No, the kid was fine.
They're so hard.
Oh, I would have probably carried the kid down or something.
Yeah.
Then if he was around.
So Reek's a bit. So So Myrtle has run over, and the nursemaid who was looking after all the babies up in the nursery little Myrtle, who's been a bit sappy for the whole time since you rescued her out the cage in a slightly dramatic manner. She like runs over to this nursemaid and like throws her arms around her legs and is like holding on for dear life. And Reek, the sort of slightly wiser 5-year-old, is like, yeah, I suppose, but I don't like him. As he's looking at this lad. He's a bit weird and horrible. I'm not sure I like him. He's one of the reasons I ran off in the first place. Weird stuff was happening around him.
He was sick, but he's better now.
Yeah.
If no one else is going to probably go over to the woman running the orphanage and just say, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
There was a demon. It's all fine now, though. Maybe when kids come in with strange lockets, get the church to check them.
Oh, yeah, very, very, very wise. I did take it off him and lock it away. But yes, you're right. And I won't be doing any more adoptions. It doesn't seem that there's anybody you can trust in Barovia at all. They will stay here with me until they are old enough to go out and make their own way in the world.
Maybe that's good.
And she's sort of ushering them all back inside. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I will go Greek a way to contact me and tell him how he can contact me. So if he changes his mind.
Okay.
Before we caught up with everyone else, then Basher found a pearl.
Found one?
Purchased a pearl.
No, because there isn't anywhere that you would have had open that sells pearls in Malachi at that time in the morning.
Do we know if we're near a beach?
Sorry.
Do we know if we're near a coastline?
As far as you're aware, there isn't an immediate.
Cool. I was going to get an eagle.
No. So you know from the druid lady that there's a lake further up to the north. And that's marked on your map, but there is no. Barovia appears to be, well, at least mist-locked, but it does not have a coastline. Okay.
I wouldn't mind. These eagles have got a. Never mind.
These eagles have got a lifespan?
They're around for an hour, but they have a really good flight speed, I believe. Let me just. I'll check in there.
Okay. So, as you're standing outside the orphanage is next door to the big church. So, the Church of the Morning Lord, the Church of Light in Valachi, is the Church of St Andrew. And the Church of St Andrew is next door to the orphanages. It doesn't look like it's a church orphanage. It's just sort of the net church orphanage. And as you're standing there, you hear the sort of bell ringing that would sort of signify the end of morning service, and some congregation starts to sort of wander out into the street in front of the church. And you see, there don't seem to be lots of people. There are more than there were in Barovia. So there's, you see one or two sort of what appear to be quite well dressed. You would think probably noble, sort of an older lady, grey hair pulled up into a bun, relatively nicely dressed for Barovia. You see two younger gentlemen in sort of furs, one with a bow and arrow and the other with a sword. You saw them in the Blue Water Inn on the very first night that you arrived in Valachi before you went off to the Wizard of Wines, and you recognised them to be some of the wolf hunters who'd been out slaying wolves for the Wolf's Head Jamboree Festival. So you notice maybe 6, 7, 8 people. You see a cleric standing, a priest standing at the door of the church, shaking hands and making polite conversation with the congregation as they sort of pass away.
I would like to do something with these eagles if I can.
Yep.
So We were told to come here to the church, and then if that failed, there was a second town we were looking at going to. Is that correct?
Yes. So
Is that within 4-5 kilometres of where we currently
no,
are?
it's further than
It's
that.
further than that?
Yeah.
Cool. Maybe
So
we can
about
just hang out then.
Yeah, so you'd be able to fly out towards over the Wizard of Wines and scout out around the sort of the forests and out towards north of Malachi, where
I might keep
where that
one with us in case
fae-
something happens
where
there,
that
while I
fae-
get to just have a look around.
yeah, you could where that weird fae tea lady seemed to be hanging out. She was just north of there. She would be within 4 kilometres.
Right.
Where are you headed and what are you doing?
Well, I'm going to wait, so I don't want to rudely interrupt while he's talking to his patrons.
Okay.
Go introduce myself to the priest when people kind of left away.
Okie dokie. That's fine. So as people start to scatter away and you're all standing with the orphans and they're all heading back in. Yep.
What's the vibe of people leaving the church? Is this all is well in Valaki, or do these people seem like they're actually coming here?
This doesn't make a perception check.
Can it be insight?
Yeah, you can do insight. That's fine.
16?
It's not got that sort of forced happy kind of vibe. There are some people who have, sort of quite stern, intense looks on their face as opposed to
That
their
seems to be general
cheesy
church.
general smiliness.
Okay, well, that's good.
So you feel that these are people who've just been...
Catholic Church. Happy clappy Baptist.
It feels more Catholic Church than random enforced festival in the town square. Happy Clappy Baptist, indeed. So,
Church is the Presbyterian church.
you wander over to the cleric, okay? As you start to approach the doors of this church, these huge, it's a much nicer church. So, as a cleric of the Morning Lord, in terms of looking at churches, compared to the one in Barovia village, which was really run down, falling to pieces, with Father Donovich chanting madly at the altar. This is really quite a nice, well-kept. The grounds, although sparse, and there's mist everywhere, there's not a huge amount of sort of green plant life, is well tended. There's a sort of path through the muddy streets that sort of looks like it's been kept clean, and there's these huge oak doors which are currently open, and it's a really nice stone building with a big bell tower at the back. As you approach the church, the cleric looks up to you and smiles, and you get this sudden vision, and you feel completely warm inside, and you get this very clear vision in your head, and for a minute all you can see as you're looking at this church is the cathedral of the Church of the Morning Lord, and the cardinal standing there welcoming you into the church. And you just feel completely sort of at home, and face back, and this father is standing there with his sort of hello.
Morning, Father. I've been sent from the Church of the Morning Lords to help you out and to tend to what needs tended to in these horrible times, but with these beautiful churches. I like to see the way you've obviously kept this church in much better condition than the one that I've seen so far.
Oh, it is so good of the church to send someone. It is almost though you've heard my prayers and answered them. I'm Father Lucian Petrovich, and I welcome you to Valaki. And there are hard times here, but I'm pleased that the Morning Lord has answered my prayers and sent someone to help us in our challenging times.
Very nice to meet you, Father Lucian. I'm Father Malachi.
Welcome. You are welcome to come in. We have just finished service. You can. You're literally next door. So Malachi's kind of wandered off as he's seen the church emptying out. You were ushering orphans back into the orphanage. Do what you will. Malachi's wandered off and is like hobnobbing with church peoples. at the moment.
Well, Father Lucian, why don't you tell me about these prayers that you need answering?
Oh,
Seems like they want to be of service.
it's a small story. Would you like to come in? It's morning. We could maybe have some bread, and I could make some tea, or I have some maybe some wine, maybe some ale. Would people? So are these other people? Are they with you? They appear to be hanging around on the street.
As
He's
long
currently
as,
in an argument with a giant.
you feel comfortable speaking with them, like if you want to have one-on-one with us first.
If they are
Fire out.
if they are friends of yours, then I'm sure they are great friends of the church. Entirely up to you. I will be guided. I will be guided by you on this matter.
I'll
When they said side of the church, Basher would want us.
I'll just go just 1 minute and move over to the rest of the party. Just there. Okay, guys. He has invited all of us in for some tea and bread and possibly wine. Actually, he mentioned ale.
Ale.
So if you want to come in, this is a church. This is a church of my congregation. I would really appreciate it if you all let me do most of the talking and try not to offend this lovely.
Hair my skin feels a bit sizzling.
Okay, so as you approach the church, are you all heading reluctantly in for free wine?
You guys can do all this stuff.
Quinny will absolutely head in. Yeah.
Okay, so Quinny, as you
feel
walk
pretty
towards
safe.
this church, you also get this odd sense of well-being, and you
Something's deeply wrong.
also get a very, almost like you're trying to puzzle something out in your head. You have a vision of the pool that you were in the Feywild just before you walked through some random plant and came out in a tree by the east gate.
Okay.
And the woman who was making tea in the forest north of Malachi.
Okay.
And those two pictures just going backwards and forwards in your head. It's like, as you go in through the door of the church, it just stops and vanishes.
As that's happening,
Yep.
can you take about 10 steps backwards and
Yep.
see if the vision stops?
As you take 10 steps backwards, those visions seem to stop.
Walk slowly forward and see what happens again.
It doesn't happen again.
Okay. I'm going to intently watch as anyone else from the party comes in
Okay.
and see if they have a look on their face of some surprise or anything like that.
Bash will walk in with
Okay.
trepidation.
As you walk in, you have this odd prickling. This sort of, not a sizzling, but definitely a sort of chill running down your spine. And you also get a vision. You get a vision of a black-haired young woman with jet black hair standing at the end of the nave of the church, looking radiantly happy, and looks like Irina. And then it stops.
While they're talking, I'll probably walk the other way I saw.
Okay.
Just while they're talking, just like not making it obvious I'm walking there, just wandering around while they're talking, just having a look at the church.
Yeah. Okay.
But directly where I saw the
Yep.
black-headed
Okay.
Gregorian chant.
Oh, you want some Gregorian chanting? I knew you'd want some Gregorian chanting. All right, you can do your own. Thank you very much. So, Etherdwy, as you wander in, again, as you wander up to the door of the church, you also get this amazing, peaceful sense of sort of happiness and lightness, and you're chasing a puppy, like a young boy chasing a puppy through a field. And the field is one that you remember. It's on the outskirts, on the other side of the bridge in Midstrand. And there's this tiny little puppy and this young boy chasing this puppy, just squealing as this puppy's jumping through this field. You're chasing him. And as you walk into the church, it stops and vanishes. And it's just this moment of... This is, There's a moment of happiness.
I remember I almost caught my dinner that day.
Harlan will also.
Deeply untrustworthy and some happy birthday.
And again, as Harleen walks in, you also get a vision, which is of a young girl running through a snow-covered wood on the bottom of a mountain, running through a snow-covered wood, and you can hear the howling of wolves and footsteps, and this girl, tiny young girl, running through this forest, and you can feel your heart racing as you walk into church. It stops. You feel very uneasy.
That's interesting.
You going in? As you go in again, you also get this really clear vision of walking into this huge temple that almost looks like it's made out of ice, carved into the side of a mountain. And as you walk in, you just get this overwhelming sense. It's like walking into the most amazing library that you've ever been into. And you know that the amount of knowledge curated is huge, and that this is what you want. This is what you wanted. This is what you knew was here. And just this overwhelming sense of, yes, I'm in the right place. And then it has gone.
Does this to
I
me
want to
feel
feel
like
like they were just like some sort of stuff.
Who's the other one?
You get a.
No, Quinny's distrustful because it felt good.
Oh, okay. You got the weird one.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily feel... You feel relieved, like you're in the right place. It's that sort
Does this
of...
feel like a vision, like as if I was
trouble with walking.
like, does this you know how I saw the vision of where old mate went, like before me?
Yes.
And there was this like temple in the mountain.
Yes.
Does this feel like it could be the same place?
So it's got the same... It might be, I think. So you've not seen the place Old Mate was heading, but this has the same snow, high mountains. It could be.
Okay.
It certainly wouldn't be out of the realms of that being a logical deduction that Zephyr would make.
What is this with dice rolling?
Do you need a jail?
Two are in jail already.
Oh, okay.
Stop calling. Go away. We're
Can
your
I,
officer. Jeez.
Just real quick, as we go in, drop an old got a thing here. So,
Okay.
stuff, Bell Branch.
Are you dropping a spidey sense, a quiddy sense?
Pretty much, yeah. My goat senses are tingling. I thought I could take good needle this, but I can't. It's just detecting stuff within.
So
60
we're
feet
talking to
doesn't
this
do
guy,
a
yeah?
Yeah, so I'll pull up.
Not one charge, so on that side.
So he takes you into this church, and this church is pretty traditional church shape. It's much larger. It's got really quite beautiful stained glass, which seems wasted in the fact that there's very little sunlight streaming through it. But you do get the feeling that if this place had lots of sunlight, this place would be spectacular. And despite there not being any sunlight, it's beautifully maintained. It's clean, and there's no dust anywhere. There's nothing broken in here. There's a sort of, as you go in through the oak doors, there's like a lobby with a statue of the Morning Lord on the one wall, and the big symbol of the sun. And there's an elderly woman sort of knelt there praying very devoutly, who doesn't move at all as you walk in. And on the opposite side, there's sort of candles and a small collection tin and sort of church stuff.
So
Yep.
while I'm walking around looking over the church,
Yep.
I'm going to pull a copper piece
Uh-huh.
out of my pocket and I'm going to start flicking on my thumb.
Okay.
And on Father Lucian,
Yeah.
I'm going to cast Detect Thoughts. Just the surface thoughts, I'm not delving, just to make sure he's telling you the truth.
He knows it.
No, while I'm walking around, I'm not looking at him.
I still know.
He'll know.
He'll know if I delve. Only if I delve.
Are you sure?
I think he knows.
I can't remember.
If you know on the surface thought, what's on their mind,
Mm-hmm.
wisdom if you
if you probe deeper, the target might make a wisdom save.
The super stars.
Yeah, either way, the target knows that you're probing. If I'm just detecting thoughts, they don't know.
Okay, so his, in terms of superficial thoughts, is, oh, thank goodness the church have heard my prayers. Where's the tea? I hope we've got some. I'm sure I've got some wine. I hope I've got some ale. I've promised ale. In terms of surface thoughts, it's go mate.
Secrets.
Haven't had this many visitors from the church for a very long time.
Just while Malachi's talking, I'm just going to listen to the surface thoughts to make sure what he's saying and what he's thinking are the same thing.
Okay, yep, that's fine.
Very
Currently,
impressed with how you've maintained this beautiful relationship.
thank you very much. It's a lot of effort, and
Is there a collection tray or anything?
there is. There's like a little collection tail on the opposite side. So in this little almost T shape on the other side of the door, on the left, there's a woman kneeling, praying to church, a statue of the Morning Lord, which is a sort of young, elven-looking gentleman with, you would recognise him with sort of almost punky hair. It's a very odd sort of deity-type statue with this huge sort of blazing sun symbol behind. On the other side, there's a couple of sort of chairs for sitting. There's some prayer books that are stacked on the wall, and there's a small collection tin there.
Mr. Priest now, sir.
Yes, young man, yes.
Can I climb this tower?
Of course. Surface thoughts, a young man and wishes to climb the tower. It's this way.
Well, he's
That's
causing-
really listening to see if the thoughts don't match with words.
Okay,
If they don't match, then he definitely wants to listen.
okay, fine.
well,
If they don't match, I'll let you know. Otherwise, they all match.
Well,
Yeah.
Ethelbreeze had kind of causing that constructor. I rolled a 17 and select 10 for the collection.
Are you stealing from the church?
I'm a criminal, poor.
I'm going to.
Can I do a perception check to see if I notice?
Yes, you can.
I'll
Pardon?
still be walking
I
around.
was joking.
No, you're talking to priest guy. You're
I'll steal them.
Remember just noticing 4,000 dice. That's crazy.
She's color coordinated. and-
No, this is my second set.
I got
on here.
25 on perception.
You're busy.
Statue.
You're talking to the priest.
Yeah, and looking around at how well he's done this stuff.
So,
While Father,
Father-
he'll still be also messing with his telekinesis and just hovering the copper coin between his hands.
Okay.
and walking around.
So Father Lucen doesn't notice. Is currently showing Ethelbreeze the way down to the bell tower and telling you about the history of the bell, while also going tea. I wonder if I have bread. Oh, I wonder if I have any pastries. I'm not sure. Or
The bell, sir. When it's time to ring it, can I ring it?
well, you will have to come later in the afternoon. You may ring the bell for afternoon service. Of course, we can teach you how to do that, young man. He seems very happy to have somebody who's interested. Father Lucian is way too busy being proud of his church to notice that anybody would be doing anything disreputable. You absolutely notice.
Do I know exactly how much she stole?
With a 25, you certainly notice that she's in the collection tin. You don't know how much is in there, so you don't know how much she's stolen.
I'm not gonna say anything right now because I don't want to. I'm definitely going to be having words.
Tell it to turn the screen rotation off. Turn the screen rotation off.
Can Quinny have a look around
Yes, of course you can.
and just see what the...
So how much did they get from
So in the collection jar were 4 silver pieces, 15 copper pieces, 1 gold piece.
Someone's got a gold piece in the coin donation.
Somebody has
that?
dropped.
How many copper pieces?
Someone's committing some sins.
Yeah, definitely. That's
Huh?
like a year's
How many
wage,
copies?
supposedly.
17, I think, or something like that. A number of copper pieces.
That's a dirty 20 on a perception check. I
On.
want to see if there's a graveyard near this church.
Yep.
I'm looking for doors that lead to a basement or a
Okay.
secret compartment. or
So,
anything like
as
that.
you
Not
were-
secret compartment, just like obviously.
You notice the graveyard immediately. So as you approach the church on the left hand, so the orphanage will be to the right as you're looking at the church.
Mhm.
To the left, on the other side of that iron fence there through that gate,
Oh,
is
right.
a graveyard, and you see some actually relatively well tended gravestones and some crypts and things like that, sort of out in to the side. You don't immediately notice any sort of anything obvious as you go down. This is the nave of this church can probably seat 80 to 100 people. I mean, this is quite a big church. So it's got this big central nave with pews. Each pew has a prayer book. It's all very neat. Some of them are out. Clearly there's been a service and people have been worshipping in here. As you go down, there's 2 rooms on either side. Oh, let's put up a map so you can have a look at the... let me see if I can get... It's all right, let me get rid of the fog, because this isn't a battle map.
The old this isn't a battle map.
No, it's not a battle map.
The double bluff.
The double bluff. There you go.
No, really, it's not a battle.
There you go.
I attacked.
They're not that you can immediately see. So if you're talking to, there we go. So there's, so as he's walking down, he's saying, oh, you know, this on this side here, this is so this is the area that we were talking about. So inside, it's beautifully lit. There's lots of candles all the way down. So it's all lit with candlelight. So even though it's sort of still pretty misty and grim outside, it's actually quite light and bright in here. And again, that's a lot of candles for a building this size to light this up. So this probably isn't a cheap place to light. So there's a woman sort of praying here. There's a collection tin over here that you've just robbed. As he's walking down, he's like, "Oh, this is my bedroom. These are my quarters." As he's walking, well, as you're walking down, there's so as you're walking down the nave, there's like closed doors on either side, 2 on either side. He's like, "These are my quarters. This is the office. I will just take the young boy down and show him the way up into the bell tower, and then we can come back to my office and I will make you tea." He walks down, so he's like, "Oh, this is my office here, and you head all the way down the nave of this church." So you go down, it opens up, it's really quite large. The bell tower is right at the far end, down at the and there's steps, a huge brass bell with a rope, and then stairs in a spiral staircase that go all the way up to the top. There's a straightforward sort of T shape with a transept on either side. So it's you know, pretty standard church configuration, but it's much nicer than the sort of churches that you've certainly that you've experienced in Barovia so far.
When you go check if these candles are real, like just go tap them lightly, you know, if they're illusions, they'll pass through.
Yeah, you can tap a candle. A little bit of wax dribbles off the side and it sputters a little as you tap at it.
Bash is doing the old
Even more confusing.
coin across the knuckles trick, except the coin's hovering this far above his hand. So the coin's just flipping in the air, but I'm doing the knuckle.
There you go. As I said, not a battle map. There you go.
I'm just doing the coin's like you. Yeah, like I said, if the coin's not touching my hand, it's just slowly blowing.
That's accidentally steals some 40 wood.
Okay.
That's why Bash isn't having anything currently. You're not silly.
So, as he's giving you the grand tour, he seems very proud, and as you tell him that his church is very well kept, he seems visibly sort of like, I'm doing well in the eyes of the morning lord. The pride is genuine. He seems very genuine, and he seems very happy that the church is paying some attention to his parish, and he's proudly sort of showing this off. You notice that there's a sort of big doors open on the west sort of transept off the nave, and he explains that this is there's a viewing area. That's where, when he conducts funerals here, that's where people go to view the deceased. And you actually, if you go and look, you'll see that there's a a coffin there, and laid in that coffin, he's like, "Oh, that's the young Martikov, the boy, old Davian Martikov. He runs the vineyard just out of town. He
Unfortunately, we're present.
some. Oh, so sad, so sad. I have known the family for a long time, and they come here regularly. So there will be we will be conducting a funeral service for young Martin sometime after the viewing period, and it's lovely. I mean, it's a really very impressive building.
Well, you might try to find a way to mention to Malachi and maybe ask the priest about financing the orphanage more. So the person there was saying they don't get a lot of money.
Yeah.
That was happening last week, wasn't it?
Yep. So he's like, well, if the young boy wishes to climb the bell tower, there's little harm that can befall him. There, he seems a sensible lad. We could retire to my office if that would be amenable. I'll get you some drinks and we can talk, and I can try and help you with any questions you might have. And he seems particularly deferential to Malachi. The sort of So he, as far as Malachi he has been sent by the Morning Lord, and this is quite a big deal, quite clearly.
Should we go to the priest's or the father's office for
Yes.
something?
In the church,
Whatever the time period is?
would Malachi outrank this guy in the church?
Yes, very much so.
Not like the Inquisition.
Yeah. So
Yeah, they're going to bounce
feels
right
high.
in position if they show up.
So Malachi, from a Church of Light perspective, there's two. As far as Malachi would explain, is there's two branches of the sort of Church of Light. There's the abrogators, who are responsible for going around and making sure that all the churches are behaving in line with the dogma of the Church of Light and the Church of the Morning Lord, and doing everything that they can to do the right stuff and increase their congregation and recruiting people in and making sure that they're welcome. And then there's the Herald of the Dawn Slayers, which is the paladin arm of the Church of Light, who are more interested in converting or pulling back in-individuals who might stray from the path of the Church of Light. So there's two arms of the enforcer arms of the church. Malachi has been an abrogator in the Church of Light he's the most senior abrogator in the Church of Light. And
Inquisitor, basically.
yes,
How unexpected.
on a church level as opposed to an individual level. So he's more interested in what the priests are up to, and the Herald of the Dawn Slayers would be more interested in getting more people into the Church of Light. The conversion arm,
Or
the missionary arm.
or they'd be the ones that
Take care of business, so to speak.
So to speak. Yes.
So
Nobody really asks what they do. They're the missionary. They're the missionary arm. They help.
It's such a wonderful euphemism. Isn't
They
it?
help. They help.
Right. What's that?
It's all right.
Why did you get angry?
They help encourage people to find their faith.
So we're in his office, yeah?
Yeah.
There's books on the shelf.
Yeah, there are books on the shelf.
Is there a particular volume that would be of interest to Bash?
There's a particular volume that's of interest to Father Lucian, which I'm guessing that would therefore also be of interest to Vash, which is called The History of St. Andrew.
Well,
And that's on here. So as he goes into his office, he's like, should probably tell them about the history, where to start. And he's like, other than...
Do you have any books here on the history around here?
He looks at you.
I'm quite the history guy.
And doesn't in any way, it feels like he's being second guessed. It's like, that's uncanny. And he reaches for. I was just thinking where to start. Whether
Like that all the time.
and he's not thinking that that's particularly odd. He just feels, I was going to tell you the history, and you want to know the history. How convenient.
The inner workings of your church are
I would be. I would admit they're of little interest to me. So while you're discussing that, I'd like to read.
Okay. He pulls down a book called The History of St. Andrew.
So I'll hold it in my left hand, but I'll be turning the pages telekinetically.
Okay,
I'll be appearing to read it, but I'm listening to his thoughts.
that's fine.
I
So
want to make
his thoughts are largely benign in terms of right at the moment. He's like busying himself making, what can I get you to drink? I'm afraid I'm all out of pastries. I've got some bread. It's very meagre. I'm so sorry. I didn't realise that we were having guests today. And he's sort of a little flustered about, he's clearing some space on his desk, not in a trying to hide anything, just in a where to put stuff. He wasn't suddenly expecting an office full of people.
No need to make a big fuss. I appreciate any
And he's like,
from the background. Ooh, that's interesting.
it is, isn't it? It's so interesting.
I was intrigued by the offer of ale earlier. We've not come across that in Barovia.
Well, obviously, wine is the staple diet of Barovia, but I have done many favours, weddings and christenings and the like for the Martikov family. So they have grown some hops. They have grown some hops and experimented a little for me. So I have a barrel. We tend not to have. There's not a large amount of wealth. The church here you'll find is relatively poor compared to some that you will visit, I'm sure. We tend to pay in kind and in barter and in goods, and the Martikovs have been so kind over the years to use their plenty that they have been fortunate to preserve at the vineyard to maybe make a little ale. They don't make enough that would be widely sellable, so they bring it here and in payment of kind.
Fascinating.
Would you care for some?
No, that's all right.
It's fine. It's fine. And he pours them out.
If you insist.
Okay. It's actually very good. Yeah, it's like craft beer. It's very nice. It's like much better than the wine that you've been drinking. Yep.
So this going to go as speaking like a deep thought from me. So,
You're right, stiff.
Does the Church of Malachi have the rest of the world?
Well, we tend to be fairly isolated up here. Obviously, we have the largest congregation. I have not heard from Father Donovich down in Barovia village for many months now. And we do not tend to travel that way. I'm fairly busy. I'm a solo priest here. I do not have any assistants. If I travel, then I leave my congregation. That all seems very genuine. He's like, there is an abbey up at Kresk. That's a largely self-sufficient place. The abbot lives there. It's more of a community rather than a place of worship within a town. I'm more of a man of the people than a pure man of faith. He doesn't seem in any way perplexed that you're talking in his head.
So the telepathy doesn't bother him at all?
No.
You can consider training one of the lads from the orphanage.
Bash will look over at Zephyr and go,
one or two of the people from the orphanage already work here. I do try to give gainful employment to the youth. A young lad called Jeska, he lives at the orphanage. He sometimes comes and helps with service and goes and buys things like communion wine, which is just wine, and then we bless it, obviously, and helps put away the prayer books and things like that. A young a man called Milovich, he helps, he helps at the orphanage sometimes, but he works here largely as a caretaker. He takes care of our grounds. He's been very sick recently, so...
you should be feeling better.
Oh, that's excellent news. I went to see him and he was very sick.
You went to see him?
a couple of days ago, he'd become very pale, stopped eating. It felt I prayed over him, and it did not seem to help as much as it should have. But he digs the graves here. He tends the grounds. I try and give work to those when we have very little to pay, but it is good to have activity in your life in a place like in a place like Barovia. Again, he all seems very genuine on the level.
That's all the point of his questions. No grave robbing, which is a terrible shame. Yeah, right. Well, that's probably some judgy stuff and someone just seeking a living. But anyway.
Alright, well, please tell me about. Yes, you were going to start with the history of this church and tell us about what.
Well, I'm your friend with the strange abilities. It looks like he's pointing at your mage hand rather than. I know your mage hand is invisible, but the fact that your pages are turning rather than the thoughts would probably be able to tell you as well as I. But this church, Androl was a monk. You would know a little bit about the stories of Androl. He devoted his life to serving the Morning Lord. And he came to Vallaki and took residence in some old ruins and began holding services. He was the man who really brought the Morning Lord into Barovia, and you would know that in terms of church history. So this is
dedication is mentioned quite a few times.
Yeah. And over the years that he worked, he turned the ruins into a sanctuary for those wishing to serve the Morning Lord. And then when Strahd fell and became the vampiric abomination that he is, a couple of his own guards and priests tried to kill him, and Strahd tried to hunt them down and learned that they had fled to Vallaki, and Androl took them in and protected them in their war against Strahd. Mm-hmm. All true, and it's all in there.
It's all true.
Mm-hmm. Just absolutely
not like Strahd.
No.
And I'll float the book back on the show.
Okay. And Strahd came to Androl and attempted to charm him and to gain entry, to gain an invitation to enter the ruins that served as the home and the place of worship of the Morning Lord, and to apprehend those guards and kill them. But Androl, bless the Morning Lord, miraculously withstood every attempt that the vampire Strahd made to charm him. It could only have been an intervention of the Morning Lord himself that would allow such a thing. And Androl declared that so long as he remained in his home, all that entered there would be safe from the devil Strahd. And Androl and the guards ended up living the rest of their lives in his home and never once leaving the grounds. And they grew their food and lived communally, and eventually all grew old and passed away. And the land and the ruins, the hallowed grounds on which this church now stands, hallowed by the bones of St. Androl, of the Morning Lord, who has still never left his home. And while he remains here, this will be sanctuary from Strahd. This is all true. You, absolutely on the level, in a detect thoughts way, you feel he's gearing up to the main point and is nervous about how Malachi is going to react to what's about to happen. And he's nervous about it.
He had his own question he wanted to ask anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So this protection around the church, does it apply purely to Strahd or to any vampire?
Purely to Strahd. And he looks at you and goes, purely to Strahd.
I kind of assumed, so I just thought I'd check.
And they cannot enter here while St. Androl remains in residence.
By your tone, I'm guessing there's a problem with this.
Well,
I'm speaking in past tense.
the skull of St. Andrel is the greatest relic. It is the skull of St. Andrel that grants the
Bash
protection.
will lean right back on the bookcase, just leaning in. Let me guess, it's gone missing.
It went missing a number of days ago. I have been searching. I am fearful for my congregation. They come here for safety, and this would tie with why Kolyan back in Barovia felt that this would be a safe place to get Arena to, that this was a safe place. Whether he knows why it's protected, you don't know, but this is clearly within Barovia a safe place. And Malachi has a reputation of being much safer than anywhere else from Strahd.
You guys look unlike this priest.
Look,
He
I
seems like,
don't like
because I'm reading his mind, he seems okay.
I'm obviously not saying this in character.
Yeah, I'm not saying character either.
I can show you.
Seeing the site of the crime may give us some clues as to where it's gone.
With pleasure. I've done some investigating myself. I have not been idle. And he looks directly at Malachi. He's like,
Kids said we shouldn't take
Shouldn't take a what?
the skull. They obviously nicked the skull. One of the kids nicked the skull.
Yeah.
Probably because Strahd asked them to. And then Strahd's like, I'm taking it or something.
Orphanage. Not a safe place.
We'll have to look into
Not a
that.
safe place for kids.
The one that was really sick.
We were not aware of this before we arrived, so don't worry about reprisals.
and he kind of smiles at you and looks at Malachi. It's not your reprisals he's worried about. It's very much
But
the
Bash is
Church
trying
of the
to
Morning
convince
Lord has answered my prayers and sent people who are going to help sort this
Bash was
out.
trying to convince him Malachi's not going to kill him for this.
I hope. I hope.
Bash was trying to basically say Malachi is not going to kill you. For
What
this.
you're getting in terms of superficial thoughts is the church is famed both for its ability to intervene and its ability to punish, and that is
Malachi,
and
we're here to assist, not to do anything else.
He looks-
says reluctantly.
he looks nervy.
That's
Me,
That's why Bash is trying
the
to
last saw
Yeah,
the
we're cool.
skull.
Okay, and he takes you down, and there's up by the altar. There's like a there's like
And while you're doing that,
Yep.
Malachi, I trust you have this well in hand. Take some body inspiration. You get a D6 on any roll. You did D20 roll.
Yeah, I've got it. I'll give you an enhancer.
so up right by the altar of the church is what looks like a sort of ceremonial crypt with a sort of marble stone, polished stone statue of a figure lying in repose, the symbol of the Morning Lord behind. Normally the bones would lie here in state, right in the altar of our church, and you can see here and you can see there's sort of scratch marks on. This has been opened and moved, and he sort of pushes it, and there's this grating noise. This guy looks stronger than he looks as it slides across, and you can see that within, as you look through the sort of slit along the side, you can see skeletal bones, and there is no skull. The skull is missing. There are other bones there, but the skull is missing. And he sort of prays and says some words to the Morning Lord and just looks frightened. And what you're getting is just really, is the church here? So have they answered my prayers, or have they come to replace me because I've lost.
Hi, what is the Morning Lord's secret police?
I've lost.
I'll start.
Malachi is the Morning Lord's secret police. That's actually his job,
I'll walk
and priests know that. That
walk
he wears the uniform of an abrogator, so he's like fuck shit scared.
Past Malachi, and as I'm walking past, I want to go have a look at the bones. It's very, very quiet. And I'll go investigate.
You wouldn't need to roll perception or insight to know that he's afraid of you. You've not met many priests of the Morning Lord who are not at least somewhat nervy.
But Bash still felt the need to point that out.
Yes, Bashwood.
So I'll go have a look at where the bones are kept, see if I can find any evidence or anything of who.
Yeah, I was going to.
What happened?
Do you want advantage on intelligence, wisdom, anything like that?
What's investigation?
Intelligence.
Quinny will pull out a little bit of foxfire and then just blow it behind you while you're doing stuff. Give advantage on intelligence checks.
Well, I see the body.
That's enhanceability.
Okay.
Just a very quick
So I'm doing,
Which means
you're
that
doing an
you-
investigation check on like basically.
And-
Okay.
I'll
And
do
you-
I'll do one of my own.
Okay. No worries.
Wow.
That's next hour, by the way, with intelligence.
Okay.
Okay.
So that'll be an 18.
I rolled a 9.
Okay. So
So
as you're looking, so you're looking at the scene of the crime. Under the altar with the 19, underneath the altar, right up against the sort of legs of the altar tables of under the drape is what appears to be a fish hook. That has a small amount of twine attached, but it looks like a fish hook. And what you get is looking at where this has been opened. It looks like it's been these scratch marks. This looks like it's been pried open by some kind of. There's a lock, and the lock appears to not have been pried open. But once that, it looks like the lid's been moved, at least initially, with some kind of a tool or an instrument of some description.
I'll telekinetically float the fish hook up to my hand.
Probably like professional burglars.
This is interesting.
Not easy work.
Oh, it is.
There's any large bodies of water nearby.
Well, there is one body of water nearby. There's Lake Zarovich, which is to the north of Valaki. The only person who really fish it. There are a few who fish up there. Bluto sells fishing equipment out at the stockyard. He comes to my church. He's been in Valaki forever. People try. I'm not sure if there's any fish in the lake anymore. People go up there and fish occasionally.
While he's talking, I'll walk over and I'll see if I can match the fish hook to the torments.
Okay. Roll.
Like they've put fish on and drag.
These are little. These aren't sort of like whaling fish hooks. These you wouldn't be able to pry open a casket with them. So roll just straight intelligence. Is Etherdwy there?
17.
Do we say that I'll come back down? What did I see? Did I just jump? We jumped there.
Yeah,
What
sorry.
did we see?
So Etherdwy at the top of the bell tower, you get this amazing view looking out north over Valaki. In fact, you get a circumferential view. So from the top of the bell tower, you can see all of how the city. So you look down, and you can see right down into the where the toy shop is, and there's absolute chaos down there. There's guards swarming around. It looks so busy. It looks way busier than the last time you went shopping. There's guards everywhere. There's a very tall guard storming around, shouting instructions. There's people who look like they're knocking boards up into the toy shop window. As you look out to the north, you can see all the woods and the forests where you went out to try and find the druid. And right over in the distance through the mist, you can see what appears to be a lake. And as you look over to the west, you can see out where a clearing where you would know the Wizard of Wines to be. As you're looking back down the way, you can just about see the top of the windmill on a hill, so you get a really good view of Malachi. Over in the distance towards it, you can see what appears to be a really tall tower, just out in the distance to the northeast. And then there's some what looks like over towards the west, almost looks like turrets, like you would see on a castle, but too far away for you to really get a good view. But you get a beautiful sort of landscape view of the surrounds of Malachi. The bell itself is huge. If you try and wang it because you're up there and you're 10, and what else would you do? It's really loud and sort of makes your ears vibrate. But again, it's all in good repair. It doesn't look like it's falling down. There isn't anything dropped up here. It's a bell tower.
We'll come back down and probably join these guys.
So these guys are all, essentially you come down the bottom of the bell tower and these guys are all now, so you come down here and they're here basically investigating all this area up here. The fishhook does not match the tool marks. Inside you see where the skull should be. There's like a chest, like a wooden chest with sort of brass hinges and things like that. And Father Lucy goes, the skull being so precious to the church was locked, so we keep it with the body of St Andrew, but the skull of St Andrew was locked in its own casket. Yep.
Whether I can see the lock was forced to open the key.
If so, as a group, you help Father Lucian take the lid off this casket. Roll a thieves' tools check.
I'll roll a check for that as well. But is it going to be?
And when they're done,
You'd roll intelligence. You can roll intelligence with proficiency. So roll an intelligence check, but add your proficiency bonus. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I just know what to do. Well, not a
sorry, just when I do an intelligence check, I roll a state d20, add my intelligence.
Add intelligence and then add proficiency.
Well, shit.
Oh no!
After the thing was,
Yeah.
I turned it.
Someone
No, the lock.
What is it saying?
I'm no fisherman. This is like a Shimano launching three. It seems odd for a fishing hook and twine to be.
What did you roll? What did you roll?
I ended up with a 8.
Okay, so you can't tell with an 8 whether this lock has been picked. It's like a padlock that's on this thing. If you want to, you can use the fishhook to try and pick it.
I got a 25.
As on the lock, again, you can see some very small, very fine scratch marks around where the key would go. You think it's probably been that it's not been opened with a key, but you don't know what this lock looked like normally.
Who was a copy of this key?
Oh.
The questions are quite sure. I was about to ask that question.
No, sorry. No.
This is my investigation. This is a church. You guys just need to I was going to. How many keys were there for this lock?
Nobody has a key for that lock.
You don't have a key for the lock?
No. Why would we ever open the?
What?
So the bones of St Andrew have been safe here for hundreds of years. We don't routinely open, and he's very intently trying. We don't routinely open our holy relics and unlock them and show them. They are holy to the church. You would understand that.
Yes.
Okay.
How do you know it was missing?
Because the lid of the casket was ajar and it was open and it was empty, and I have closed, and then he very warily looking at Malachi. He's like, I closed it and I put the lid back on so as not to terrify the congregation and seed panic. But I am feared that now the church is no longer hallowed. The feast of St. Andrew is in but 3 days, and I am. The whole of Valachi would come to that service.
Not panic.
They would come to the service, and if it's no longer a sanctuary, what would we do?
Have 3 days.
He's very worried.
How many
You get
people-
the feeling that he's split between worrying that Malachi might kill him and absolutely worried about
That's
the
right.
people of Valachi and what might happen if this is no longer a sanctuary for the people of Valachi. He seems genuinely concerned about his congregation.
How many people have access to this church when it's not?
Particularly
Not in
this
congregation,
church.
not in this.
Oh, very few. Myself, Jeska, the
Grave digging boy.
Milovich, he doesn't tend to come into the church more than for services. He's usually outside in the graveyard.
Malevich, the one that was sick.
Yes, Milovich has been sick. Yes.
When did he get sick?
Celia, the lady who runs the orphanage next door, told me he became sick a number of weeks ago. He's become gradually more sick. I went and tried to pray over him and bring him to church. He's not been able to get out of bed for a number of days.
Do you see any unattended children lying around?
Unattended in the church. Only Jeska, but he works here, so he's often unattended.
Sorry, Emma, and we know that person got sick the same time the king of the locket shut up. We know that was around the same time,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yeah.
Cool. That seems more likely.
Yeah, but there's I think
Just
it may be that.
So lots of strange things. So lots of strange things started happening at the orphanage when the kids showed up. Other kids started disappearing. People started. Well, you might well have done. The locket got busted
it got,
because
like,
you blew it up
broken.
and set it on
Was
fire.
there
And
any- or was it destroyed?
it wasn't destroyed. It was very heavily broken, but it wasn't destroyed. You dispelled it, I
I
think.
feel like a random holy locket with potentially celestial on it. That seems like something you'd grab rather than leave lying
Yeah.
around.
I will go with that.
Cool.
Maybe we get me a pearl.
I'm going to use the book to try and open the lock.
Okay. Just roll a straightforward lock picking. So it's probably dexterity.
You roll a 27, roll it again.
Oh, 27. Yeah, you pick it. It's like the easiest lock in the world. And you're like, this visual is an excellent lock pick. Feel free, you could.
I think we've discovered.
I think Ethard, we would probably pocket it
Official.
Yeah.
it was a good lock up.
Well, I think we've discovered how they open the chest.
I'd like to speak to Jessica and Malevich if you have the ability to set that up.
Well, they're usually just. Jeska should be here any minute. He's due. He's due soon to start setting up for this evening service and tidying up after this morning service. That would be his job. He's usually pretty reliable. I'd expect him very soon. Usually comes after everybody's left the church. Milovich, the last I saw him, he was sick. He was in bed in the orphanage. I'm sure you could find him there if you wanted to, if he's able to speak.
A moment. Just one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been noticed, or have you ever noticed that you've been robbed before?
No. The people of Valachi value the sanctuary of the church here. We have never been robbed.
I think that is taken that for granted. What's the word?
Complacent?
Complacent. But anyway, I would like to sit in on your, if you do not mind, sit in on your afternoon service to make sure.
Oh, you would be most welcome. You would be most welcome. You could maybe share your love of the Morning Lord with the people of Valaki.
Oh,
if you
do a sermon.
You want me to do a guest?
Oh, yes.
guess sermon,
Yes, we want to listen to it.
Well, that's happening.
yeah,
Is this
So you actually have to do a sermon.
yeah, it's right down the far end to the west.
Quinn would like to take like an hour or two, or
Yeah.
while the sermon goes for,
Yeah.
and wander through the woods. And my goal is just find any local animals.
Yeah,
I've got 4 charges of animal friendship if it comes to using them.
Yeah, yeah.
I just want to ask them if they were around here the day that the thing would have gone missing, and if they saw anything.
yeah, no problem. If you literally, yeah, absolutely, as you're walking around,
As soon as like birds.
yeah, no, absolutely, and like all good graveyards, there's some ravens
Yeah.
of the normal raven variety. There are more creatures here than you noticed actually when you were out in the wood. It's sort of woodland creatures, almost like this is a friendly place. This seems so
It's
you sort of
sanctified against vampires. That's got to at least not be a bad thing for them.
not be a bad thing. Yeah. Ooh.
That is actually historically accurate.
Yeah,
What's that?
that's what I mean.
An adventuring party could consist of a Victorian gentleman thief,
Yes, no, I
an Old
know.
West gunslinger, a disgraced former samurai,
Right.
and a French pirate.
I think we should play
Because
that.
the
Yeah, we
timelines
should
are
totally do that.
I want the pirate.
I wanted the pirate.
Old West gunslinger.
I'll make it a Victoria gentlewoman.
I want to be the Wild West woman with the big skirts
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
because that's almost as good
I
as
could play
pirate.
a Ronin.
Yes.
Yeah, I could play a Ronin.
Anyway,
Sorry.
Are you- so while you found the fish hook, you were looking before you went out to do your thing. You were
I thought we were going into the sermon stuff.
So
I would wait
while
around
he's
until
off
people
work.
are done with
okay.
stuff.
So the only other things that you find while you're looking around doing your inspection rolls are high enough. You find bits of twine that look like they've sort of burlap, like they've come off a sack of some description. In between the stones. So when you take the lid off this casket, there's
It's like they put the burlap down so it didn't make any noise when it slipped.
you don't know, but there's little bits of burlap twine that you notice trapped within the stones, and the other thing that sort of Father Lucian says, like, people are not as interested in you as history. So people know that the church here is hallowed, and they know that Valaki hasn't seen Strahd in Valaki for hundreds of years, whereas the village of Barovia is tormented by the man. But very few of them know the ins and outs. And again, looking at Malachi, like maybe he's derelict in his duty to educate the populace. Very few they know that the Morning Lord keeps them safe here, but they don't necessarily know the history and the details.
They know of the protection, but not how it works.
Yes, I can't think that there would be many people who would be particularly interested in knowing that
the bones, and you'd have plenty of people trying to steal them.
exactly. This is I would,
Exactly.
and I didn't want panic here. That's why I closed the casket, and we have carried on as normal and prayed for help.
It was very pragmatic.
Prayed for help, and the church has sent help because the Morning Lord is good.
Which you think is quite a start.
So you've got a couple of hours before the afternoon service. You notice that as you're sort of talking and you're investigating this thing, there's a small boy, and you recognise Jeske. He was the one who didn't want to leave.
He was the one I gave strength to carry the sick one out.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So he was the one who didn't want to leave his friend, and his friend couldn't leave the orphanage. And so you shut him in there because he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't leave his friend. The friend was Milovich, and they both work here. So Jeske comes.
I was going to talk to the kid, and if it doesn't, and if I can get through, it's
Or I think, and you'll see my eyes blink.
So
Maybe we could help this better nature with the kid we helped earlier. No takers. All right, I'll go.
have to wait while I talk to these children. Would you mind? I'll We have to give you a treat in exchange for this, but could you help them in their duties while I take them away? Help set up for them. I'll do my best.
It's fine. Get the inside.
So you, so
Please don't drop collection plates.
What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
so. Oh god, it's going to be a TPK because Malachi's going rogue. Okay, so Malachi in a church, gee whiz. So while you're doing that, you notice that Yeska, who seems quite light and happy, and everything's pretty good because like the orphanage is not such an awful horrible place, and comes in. He's like, Father Lucian, and he sees you all there and just sort of stops. And goes sort of all down by the altar in the church, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought service was over. Yes. I'll come back.
No, it's okay. Yes, I'd actually like to have a word with you if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, okay.
You're not in trouble. Don't worry.
That's what
Just
they all
want to
say.
ask you some questions.
Okay." And Father Lucian's like, "Come on, Yeska. You know we have guests. You know how to talk to people. You know we've practiced this. Come on." Okay.
Can I roll insight on like Yiska arriving?
Yep.
And his reaction when he saw us compared to like what he was saying.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
do I think he was saying this because it's something he's something we wouldn't approve of, or something like super secret like that?
Okay.
Or
Roll insight.
or is it something like oh, next week.
Excellent. So Yeska came in super excited, like he wanted to tell Father Lucian something, and it was all exciting. And he came in, and then he saw you, and his immediate reaction was, "Oh yeah, it's these cool people." And I was about, and then he sees where you are, and that the tomb is open, and then he just looks really worried and frightened, and just bats off completely.
How old is Yeska again?
So you kind of watch this sort of sequence of emotions, 10-ish.
Did we know that Yiska was...
There's either 5-year-olds or 10-year-olds in Brovia.
Of the...
So Yeska's an orphan. He lives at the orphanage next door, and he helps out. He cleans the church. He sort of puts stuff away, tidies up. He's a sort of bit of a sort of like an altar boy, but you know,
so we don't know if
gainful
he was already
employment.
Does he have an
thing?
altar room?
He comes in very excited. You could, and
Just from the
looks at you. Immediate reaction is big smiles. And then the second reaction is kind of almost takes in the whole scene, and then
So that's seeing the secondary reaction.
well, Zephyr's read the reaction. What did you?
No, I mean I just saw him change his demeanor.
Oh yeah. You saw him go. Yeah.
So it
I'll
wasn't...
flick a copper coin. Detect thoughts on the voice straight away.
Say this again.
Detect thoughts. I'll cast
Switched
again.
it,
No, I've run out. It's only last for a little bit.
and you've switched it. So you've
No,
recast it
recast
onto
straight
him.
on him.
Okay. His immediate thoughts are, "Oh, I should probably go. I'm going to be in trouble. I should probably go." Are his immediate thoughts. And he's like, I'm going to go. You've got company, Father. I can come back. We've got plenty of time before the afternoon service. I'll go back and see how Milovich is getting on. And he starts to sort of back out of the church.
I'm heading
Yes,
to the
please.
Yeah, so you going out speaking to animals?
Actually, once I see the kid coming in,
Yeah.
my plan is just not to be around when they're interrogating him,
Uh-huh.
and then potentially come up afterwards to the kid.
Go nice side.
No, yeah.
Nice
my
cop.
For the meantime, I'm going to head to the orphanage and talk to the sick one.
Okay, fine. So you're going back to the orphanage to talk to Milovich. Okay.
No,
And
you're
you-
going to talk to more.
Okay.
Well, my plan is then also to talk to Yesker after you're all done and be like, hey, they're all horrible, but you can tell me the truth.
Oh,
Bad cop, good cop.
no. Whether or not we're the good cop, bad cop, Bash is going to get the truth out of this kid.
Oh
The
dear.
poor child.
Oh,
Good cop, bad cop, cop that will do and some stupid fashion.
No, so we got the good cop here, Bash is playing bad cop straight away.
Yes, I really appreciate the help.
Secret points is a difficult tell for good cop.
Now I need to find help. I need your help solving another issue. There's something that's gone missing in this church, and you work here a lot, so I want to know if you've seen anything.
Okay.
And Bash will pipe up. My boy, we're sure you've done nothing wrong, but just know, I will know if you're lying.
Are you intimidating?
Intimidation check.
Little bit.
Little.
It's little bit.
Little bit.
He's
Don't
dead.
say I would know if you're lying in a little way.
22.
He is. You see. You see him sort of squirming, and there's sort of dark stain, and he looks just horrified. Yeah, he's absolutely petrified.
I wasn't trying to scare him that much. It's just, I don't like it when people lie to
It's
you.
obvious he's involved.
He's 10. He's been terrified.
It's
And I
probably
didn't
been
even have to
manipulated.
use my form of dread.
See,
Yes, but I know you're
You're
scared.
not going to soil
And you
the
probably-
church floor.
You were probably involved somehow, I'm guessing.
would be the
That's
first
okay.
Mm.
The Morning Lord forgives. I know what you do. I know you try to do the right thing.
Morning
You're
Lord
a
is good.
boy.
The Morning Lord is good.
Yes, exactly. So whoever told you to do whatever you did, or whoever you helped, I'm sure you thought you were doing the right thing.
Okay.
I just need your help because we need to find this.
Okay.
Can you please tell me what happened?
Bash will purposely not look at the kid and turn
I
back.
don't really know. And there could be lots of
What's-
things.
What's the brain telling me?
What's his brain telling you? He's desperately trying to figure out stuff to say. He's just frightened, just really frightened. So this is
And
kid
Bash-
looking for a bolt hole.
Bash will be like looking at the roof, not
Yeah,
even
yeah.
looking at the child.
Um,
You'll just say, just tell us the truth, everything will be fine.
Okay. I've seen that is that he's the chief of the guards. He hangs around outside sometimes. He's really big and quite frightening.
He is quite funny. He even scared me.
Yeah, he hangs around sometimes. I don't like him.
I don't think anybody likes him.
No,
Did you do anything to try to help Milovich to make him feel better?
I've been trying to give him soup and water and
Did you do anything
like
else? Did you take something?
You all should do an insight check.
I'm reading his mind.
I'm just going to go
Not
up
well,
there,
though.
because I'm assuming.
I'm reading his surface thoughts.
yeah, he's reading his surface thoughts. His surface thoughts are, I'm going to tell you all these things I know. I'm just going to tell you all these things I know. When you ask him about Milovich and did you try and make him feel better, he actually feels so actually slightly on more comfortable ground. Yes, I did. I gave him water and I like washed him when he couldn't get out of bed, and I made him soup.
Did
And
you come in here at all?
Well, he works.
I come in here all the time.
I mean, specifically into this room, and did you go in there and point at the crypt?
No, I didn't go in there.
Did you see anyone go in there other than Father Lucian?
I didn't see anyone go in there. I didn't see anyone go in there. Father Lucen stands up there because he's the priest. Yeah.
Actually, I'm going to need this poor boy to roll a wisdom saving throw, please. I'm going looking. You know, I'm going looking for the information. I'm probing.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That is 15 for my insight.
I can feel my blue card being taken away.
Oh, bless him. That is
That's
thematically correct.
Do
So
you have
crit
a-
fails at wisdom saving throw.
Who fails?
Obviously, he's a 10-year-old terrified child. Crit failing a wisdom saving throw seems thematically appropriate. No, he crit fails a wisdom save. In terms of insight, nothing he said strikes you as a lie. You feel there's things he's not telling you, but nothing he said so far strikes you as a lie.
Okay, so I don't think he was necessarily the one that stole it, but he might know something more than he's doing.
Yes.
And I'm specifically looking for information towards where the skull's located, or who has it.
As you go hunting, there's this jumble of I'll tell them about the Water Boys, and I'll tell them about Isaac, and I've not been in there, and I'm not going to tell them. Not going to tell them about Milovich. Not going to say anything because he's my friend, and not going to tell them about him because he's my friend and he's sick, and not going to tell them about him. And so you can, as you go probing, hear him actively suppressing that and thinking of things that he can tell you. Nothing that's untrue, but thinking of other things to try and wheedle out.
The things he's thinking about Milovich.
He's thinking that he is not going to tell you about him, and that's the dominant thought. Nothing more in terms of what's happened, just I'm not going to tell them about Milovich. I'm not going to tell them about Milovich.
If it fails, you gain inside reasoning. Inside inwards reasoning, if any emotional state, something that looms large over its mind, or something
that looms large over its mind is I'm not telling you. I am not telling you about Milovich is what is looming large, and fear for Milovich is what's looming large in his thoughts.
Vash will literally turn straight to Malachi, because he's just staring into the boy's eyes. Milovich. Yeah, of course.
And he just looks at you and bursts into tears.
My boy, we're not going to hurt him. We're not going to hurt him.
He just bursts into tears and he looks at Father Lucian and goes, I'm really sorry, Father.
Can I just turn to everyone else and just say,
We're done.
and
Yes,
I'm
go.
just going to take him, because I'm probably the only person shorter than him, and say, hey, are you in one of my suites?
Oh.
And
I
not only
would not
that,
throw this figure in my class.
and I'll say, I'll help you with your altar boy duties.
And he,
Not only that, but Vash will get down to the kids on the little spot right down. He will.
he's backing off.
He's got a treat in his pack.
He is backing
And
off.
I'm sorry I had to do that, but we needed to know.
He's backing off. And he's hiding behind the halfling.
I know you're afraid of me, and I'm sorry I had to do that, but we need to know this and we need to know this. I didn't mean any harm by it. We're just in a rush. Okay? You're perfectly safe.
And
Nothing will happen to you.
he's ignoring you. He's
Vash?
Please.
I've got this in hand.
Yeah.
okay.
I'm just going to do
Quinny.
without any ulterior
Milovich is so you head back to the orphanage. It's full of it feels brighter and lighter, and there's laughter, and there's children playing games with balls made out of rocks, but in a fun way rather than stoning each other to death way.
We're playing dodgeball.
To be fair, kids would actually do that, but yeah. So it feels a much nicer place. Just walking in feels different.
That's good to know. I'm gonna head for Milovich if I run into, was it Sarisha? Something like that? Selena. I was close.
Close.
If I run into Selena, I'll mention what's going on. Well, I'll mention I'm going to go talk to Milovich.
Okay. You see her. She's sort of wandering around. She looks much happier and much
I might give
lighter.
a little polite wave.
And she, hello, okay. She doesn't stop you. You clearly have the run of the place. Good child security here.
I will head in going for Milovich.
Okay. So Milovich is in bed, but no longer looking like he's on death's door like he was before. He looks pale, but and very tired, but no longer sort of drenched in sweat and breathing his last.
That's good. Is there much stuff in the room?
Very little. There's a bed, a sort of old sort of chest of drawers, but no obvious personal possessions. The symbol of the Morning Lord on the bedside table. That's about it.
Fair enough. Is Milovich awake?
Yes.
I might go in. Hello. Are you feeling any better?
Yes, I've been so sick. I've been largely in and out of consciousness for a number of days.
Milovich is a little older, isn't he?
Yeah, Milovich is sort of late teens,
Let's say,
16, 17.
Do you remember when did you start feeling ill?
I can't remember exactly. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a little before. I'm not sure.
Do you know what might have caused it?
No idea. I just felt sick and then unable to get up, and then feverish and burning. Very unwell.
Do you have a local apothecary or doctor or anything like that? Who looked over you?
No, I think I remember Father Lucian coming. Very kind of him. I work like a caretaker. I do duties at the church. I've not been able to go since I've been ill. He came to see if I was okay.
You've not been able to go since you were ill?
Not since I was ill. I've not been for a couple of weeks.
Have you been able to leave the bed much at all?
No, not for the last couple of weeks.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. I noticed you seem very close with Yaski.
Oh yes, he's lovely. He works with me at the church. Father Lucian gave us both work. There's not much of it to be had in Malachi. He's a good man.
Did Yaski Yaski said he'd been looking after you. I'm worried he may have given you some harmful medicine or something along those lines. Did he bring you things?
Jeske would not do anything to harm me.
Oh, not
Jeske,
intentionally, of course.
I don't think so. He is. Well, I have been somewhat feverish, but when I have been in my mind, he has been here and praying by my bedside. I don't think Jeske would do anything to harm me.
I'm sure he wouldn't have intended to. It's so
No.
simple to make these conditions worse, of course. Well, he hasn't had time I've got a bed for us.
He's the one that did.
It's not that bad.
Well, he did something.
You don't know
very
when this.
helpful.
Just so we're clear, because I think you're making a decision based on timelines.
Yeah.
You've not actually asked when this stuff went missing exactly
Oh,
at
he
any
didn't say
point.
it was-
It was a couple of days.
So
Oh,
He
yeah.
noticed it. Oh, yeah.
He knows he was missing a couple of days.
Okay,
So
cool.
it could've-
Okay,
it could've
I
been-
appreciate it.
So just in
That was
terms
entirely what I was
of
operating on.
yes.
I was about to leave.
just in terms of
Okay, cool.
Could have gone missing months ago. And just didn't notice.
so he is worried about it.
Yeah, he didn't
My
notice it.
detect bell branch, right?
Yes.
Does that only work on the living, or would that identify a corpse of a
It will detect undead. So it will tell you whether the corpse is undead. It won't tell you whether the
But
corpse
it wouldn't
was.
detect like a dead celestial? Or
No.
something. Okay.
I think it's Fey Fiend and undead.
Yeah.
But no, it wouldn't tell you it's a dead Fey.
Okay, cool. Aberration, celestial constructs, elementals, fey, fiends, undead. Okay, cool. Alright. I can pass the protection for good. That's good to know. Alright, cool. Queen doesn't have enough information to go off anything else, I don't think.
Not Malachi and Ivy anyway.
Yeah, we'd be
Yeah,
on.
you'll be there soon, but I want to check a couple other things. Can I go to Selena?
Yeah.
Person running
Yep.
the orphanage?
Yep.
And just be like, yeah, I'm a little worried about the lad who's been sick.
Milovich.
Milovich, yeah.
We've all been worried about him.
Oh,
He
of
is looking
course.
better.
Yes, quite. Do you know at all how he might have fallen into that condition? It's unusual for one child to get sick, but not any others.
No, he became sick at the same time as all the other strangenesses started to happen.
Of course.
I don't know. I don't spend any time in his room. He's not really one of my charges. He lives here. He's outgrown the orphanage, but
Of
has
course.
decided to stay and help here and at the church. I don't know.
no, of
That's.
course.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there's something. Oh, I hope there's nothing. No, there wouldn't be. That's fine.
What's that?
Mm,
Nothing.
I hope it. Yeah, there's nothing in his room or anything like that. His.
Would you be comfortable helping me check?
Yes, obviously. I don't wish him to be sick, and if there is something in his room making him sick, it could affect the other children.
I might
Yeah,
get
Yeah,
the
that's
two of us
fine.
to go through, and I imagine
As we're
we'll
walking
go through
over,
and check that.
Bash will turn and answer. Perhaps you should take the lead on this. That was, yeah, I did not handle that.
Arlene, what are you doing? Well, so we've upset some children.
Sorry,
We're
one
giving
more-
out sweets.
One more thing
Go on.
before we cut away. That's right.
Yep.
This orphanage is terribly run down. Did you say?
Pretty rundown. Yeah,
Like, are there bugs in the wall, cockroaches, something like that?
you don't see any. It's clean. It's
Okay.
just, could do with some painting and decorating and some
People are not
maintenance.
having insects living with them. I don't understand.
You want to looking
I
for
was
one
looking
to chat
for the
to.
security
There's no
cameras.
there's some little spiders, but the place isn't crawling in cockroaches.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's fine.
There's some little wall spiders if you wish to chat to one, but there's no sort of bugs crawling out of the walls, cockroaches on the floor kind of place.
How do people live like that?
I don't know. Harley, what are you doing while the others are all tormenting small children and interrogating?
Bash
You're not.
apologise for that. Not used to dealing with people so young.
I would probably
You made Myrtle cry as well, didn't you?
Yes, it
It's becoming a theme.
go and kind of have a look around at the toy shop,
Okay.
like kind of.
So you're going to
find
wander off
over
into
here-
town?
Yeah, I would wander off into town. I don't care about the chips and stuff. I'm
Okay.
taking my coin.
That's fine.
Gonna go
So you're going
around.
to wander off into
I'm
town.
gonna wander off into town.
Okay.
See, kind of what's happening at the toy store.
Okay.
Sort of try and overhear some chit chat between the guards.
Okay. Fine. Roll me a perception check. You have no problem finding your way back into town. It's the middle of the day.
And I'll nudge Malachi.
After we finish with all this,
That's a natural 19 with a +4.
Okay, so as you head into the square where Blinsky's toy shop is, you can now see that the window that was this beautiful display of toys is now boarded up. On the billboard, the guards who have done all the boarding up have also posted the Festival of the Blazing Sun posters, because there's a flat surface there that hasn't got any posters on it that wasn't there before. So there's some. They've taken the opportunity to put some posters up. You see this short man wearing ridiculously sort of colourful, bright yellow trousers and a bright red jacket, with this sort of shock of grey hair, sort of standing there outside of his shop, sort of talking excitedly to the guards, and there's people coming and going outside of his shop. And in terms of things that you overhear, there's what you assume is Gadolf Blinsky going, "It is ridiculous. My shop, it is ruined. All my toys, no funny, no Blinsky. This poster, it is on my window. How will I sell any toys when there is the post? I will buy." And he's like rushing in, and he's salvaging things. He's almost like setting up like a market stall, because there's like there are loads of people, like the whole of the Malachi. Well, a jackal jumped through, so all the little displays of like wooden handcrafted carousels
It's like a jackal in
have
a
been
toy store,
a jackal in a toy store. These aren't nicely boxed and shrink wrapped. So there's salvageable stuff in there, but it's not open for business. And there's blood everywhere, and then you rolled all over the blood. So there's there's
on the floor.
they were now.
They were often smashed through.
They are now. They were on little stands and things like that. These are intricate, like hand carved things, not like pandemic in a box with a shrink wrap, which would survive a jackal attack anyway. So there's like blood and glass and things in all of his special toys. So he's like, I bring joy to the people of Valakia. And he's like in and out of this shop, and he's bringing stuff out, and he's got these puppets, and you can see he's like absolutely expertly sort of marionetting this sort of It's like display. It's all these children who are crowding around because the place is completely full. There's whispers of what's happened, and Valaki's a safe place. We don't have things like this in our city. This is the kind of thing that would happen in Barovia, in the village. This does not happen here. We don't have break-ins, and there's a lot of, oh my goodness, all is not well. And so the guards seem to be split between investigating what might have happened and keeping a lid on the discontent that this has sort of caused to be bubbling up. They seem at least as bothered about the everything is well, this is not a problem, damage limitation as they are about finding out what the fuck's just happened. Blinsky's pissed about that. But at the same time has decided that there is a business opportunity because all the children in Valaki have come down to find out what's going on, and all their parents are there sort of bitching and moaning about the state of the thing. So he's sort of pulling out the toys that aren't completely trashed and going, oh, you had the carousel. And they say, and there's little sort of horses and skulls. And as they go around, they sort of, the horses, each horse is sort of marginally more dead until you've just got a skeleton and it starts with a horse again. And he's got...
Oh, yeah. I actually
and he's
that. Like,
it's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's pretty cool. And he's got these sort of stacking dolls and he's like stacking them out and then stacking them back together almost like a magician with the cups. And it's got... it goes all the way down to like a tiny corpse and then a skeleton and then all the way back up to like a big baby, and they just get older and older and older and older and older as you go down into this sort of nesting dolls. And he's sort of pulling out all the things and trying to basically sell them to people in the crowd. On the far edge of the crowd you see a tall man sort of leaning against his door, kind of just watching, surveying from a distance, looking rather disdainful about the whole thing, not really engaging, just watching from the sidelines. And you would know, because Vash had talked about it, you would know that that's Vasily von Holtz's mansion in the corner. Whether or not that's who that is, you presume it probably is. Very well dressed, sort of tailcoat, rough, very well off, just sort of watching from a distance this complete omnishambles that's going on in the centre of town. Okay. Cut back to the orphanage and the interrogation of poor Milovich.
I'll be staying out of the zone, jumping in my hand.
Okay. So
He's learned his lesson.
Quinny's, as far as I'm aware, wait for Garen to get back, is kind of having a look at Milovich's room in terms of whether or not there's something there that's made Milovich sick, but has given up interrogating him. So you can...
Before I head in, I'll just ask Quinny to tell me what he learned from knowledge, which I can't answer.
Yep, that's fine.
And then I'll go to Milovich's room, knock on the door.
Oh, hello. I'm so sorry. And he's like in bed, clearly has been really ill. Sort of, he pulls the sheets up a little. It's like, I'm sorry, I was not expecting so many visitors. I'm not really dressed for company. I'm so sorry.
No apologies. Sorry. Milovich, how are you feeling? I'm trying to say you were very ill.
I have been better, but I am feeling significantly better than I was earlier this morning. I was just saying.
Would you like me to use some prayers and help?
Don't suppose we've had a skull amongst their personal possessions.
Roll investigation. Are you a priest of the Morning Lord?
I am.
I would absolutely appreciate you praying with me.
Yes. Right, so I'll
12. Can I get aid from the orphanage woman helping
Yep.
me?
I'll cast
Yeah.
pure...
Was 12.
Pure
Um,
wounds. So I'll just say...
you notice there's like scratch marks in the posts of the bed. With a 12, you're not sure of the significance of those, but
Can I use my druid type skills or a nature check to understand if they are natural or artificial? Like if they have rat claws compared to a
Oh
fish
yeah,
neck or something?
yes, absolutely.
What do you want for that? A survival?
Yes.
9's to that roll. 21.
It's this has been scratched in. This isn't a creature.
I will point those out when everyone else gets there.
Okay.
Probably fairly subtly.
Yeah. Okay. So down the bed head, there's sort of scratched markings.
While Malachi's talking, I'll do a quick sound around.
Okay. While Malachi's talking, it's exactly, there's a bed. Quinny points out some scratch marks down the bedpost. There's like a table. On the table, there's a
Subtly take a closer look at the stuff.
roll
You
of
guys
investigation.
Do they look the same?
No, same room. They're just looking at his bed. You're talking to him.
I'm just looking around.
Do they look the same as the markings on B2? From the fishing hook around the lock? Roughly the same size.
Well, it's just 5 or 12.
Survival was 21.
Oh, no, they don't.
An investigation 24.
You think this is a script of some kind, but you can't read it.
I've healed him 6 health, by the way.
So
Oh.
it's like a language.
It looks like something is inscribed there. You think it is a script, a language, but it's not something you can read.
Can I take out the ruins of the locket and compare it to Celestial?
There are similarities, but this does not look like celestial.
There seems to be some similarities, but I don't think it's Celestial.
Can I have a look?
You can have a look.
So it doesn't look like Elvish.
No.
I don't suppose anyone could comprehend languages.
No, but I do speak a few languages.
It's not undercommon.
No.
It's not.
Where's this?
Down the
On
bed head.
There's ruins of something.
I'll have a look at
It's
it.
a language.
Yeah.
Is that
So-
So-
Has it celestial, common, deep speech, primordial, or each of them?
No.
There's a lot of languages.
I've got-
Sylvan.
I do speak
Oh,
Sylvan.
fantastic.
I've
No.
got celestial common evolution.
No.
Sylvan's fair.
I can't even read this.
So no. I don't think anybody can read it.
It's not been on a
So,
bottle of
carry on.
wine, like-
So he prays with you. He seems very fervent. He knows all the prayers of the morning, Lord. He seems very intent that that you've come to help him, and very grateful.
While that's happening, I'd like to use my last bell branch charge.
Yeah.
Just while all these people are in the room and
Yeah.
nice and close by,
Yeah.
just to see if any of them are anything weird.
Okay.
So
Anybody
is
weird?
Yeah, are any of them celestial aberrations, constructs, elements, fays, fiends, or undead?
Undead.
The only people who ping the bell branch
Uh-huh.
would be you and Dren. Not Dren, Vash. You and Vash. So in terms of
Don't panic, but there's a fey and an undead in the room somewhere.
And then Vash will look at you and go,
Oh, right, of course. Yes.
okay.
There needs to be justice.
So he prays very fervently. He knows all the prayers of the morning, Lord. He seems to be quite comfortable with that. I'm very grateful that you've come to help him.
Thank you for praying with me. Welvich. Now that I hope you're feeling much better after our prayer together, I'd like your help with something. Something is going missing in the church. Do you know much about the skulls?
Yeah. And he just goes,
Have
like,
you seen
obviously. Yeah.
It? Did you take it?
Yeah.
being flat out honest about it.
Is it?
I sold it.
You sold it. Why did you sell it?
Well, because
Unfortunately to whom?
No, let me talk.
why?
Quite in the
Yes,
best seats.
Because have you seen how little money they have here at the orphanage and all the children who they look after? You know, there's just some like old bones and stuff that somebody wanted and they were going to give me money and
Did you give the money to the orphanage?
I just put it in the desk and he looks up and Celia's just, that was from you. And so, yeah, she said there was there were a pouch of gold coins in the desk. I assumed that it was alms from the church. Father Lucian comes over sometimes. I didn't realise it was from you, Milovich. That's very generous and unnecessary. We'd have been fine.
Who did you sell it to?
Um,
You know them?
well, yeah, Henrik von Horst, the coffin maker in town.
When was that?
Oh, before I got sick, a couple of weeks ago, I got a note that said, before the feast, and 50 gold coins, and Jeske told me where, and he goes, Jeske did nothing wrong. I asked him, he knows more history than I do, but Henrik was prepared to pay a lot of money for, old bones. He's a strange old man, and the orphanage needs money more than anyone needs old bones. And Jeske told me where the bones are kept. He said, I want this skull of somebody or another. And Jeske told me, oh, I know where they are. And he told me, and I got them. And then I gave them to Henrik. And Henrik gave me the money, and I gave money to the orphanage, and then I got sick.
Can I do an insight check if this kid has actually just done something stupid and doesn't know what they've done?
Yeah.
That's exactly what
Above 20?
That's exactly what's happened.
Above 25?
You get the feeling that this kid has prioritized living, breathing, lots of kids in a relatively rundown
That sounds
orphanage
pragmatic.
over the top
Well,
of
something a kid does.
dusty
Not
old
with what the
bones,
spell actually
dusty
does,
old
but,
bones in a church that aren't really doing anything. And
Unfortunately, it's
from a
fantasy
religious
setting,
point of view,
so-
you get the feeling that he's absolutely of the Church of the Morning Lord,
Yeah.
but has no idea about
Oh,
history and stuff. These are just dusty old bones.
In a minute. Was there anything else you sold to Henrik?
No, he didn't want anything else. He just said,
Just
I want the skull, a skull. I want it before the feast. I'll give you 50 gold. I'm like, all right then, that sounds reasonable. And we've had food, like decent food. All the kids. Nobody's been hungry for a while.
Looks like you've been very sick.
Oh, I've been very sick. I'm not sure why.
When did you become sick?
Oh, so it was. I don't know, on and off, getting.
Was it
I'm better now.
Was it around some time as you sold the skull?
I don't think so. I don't
No,
think
but
so.
maybe
I went
Henrik got
to work. I went to work a bit, and I've come home a bit, and I've just been gradually feeling more and more off. You, with an insight, you don't feel he's lying. He doesn't see a relationship between either temporally or even with, is this related to you being sick as a question. He doesn't feel that they're related.
Milovich, I'd just like to, on behalf of the Morning Lord, apologise if you had to make that kind of decision. I appreciate your honesty.
He looks somewhat skeptical,
Yeah.
but at the same time, too right. Too right. I shouldn't have to make that decision. The Morning Lord should look after, but I'm not going to criticise the Morning Lord because we don't do that. Okay. Father Lucian comes in and goes, is everything okay? He sort of followed you over. Milovich, you're looking so much better. So much better.
I didn't say that. So,
Yes, behind me.
yeah, I think we should go see my
No.
Father Lucian,
Yep.
I will try to be back in time for the afternoon service. but
Okay.
I may be busy.
Okay.
So if I'm there, I'm there. If I'm not, I'm not.
You may wish to see Father Lucian
Okay.
next time. Just you may wish to go see Henrik next time, just as a heads up.
Yeah.
Only because
Oh, maybe let's.
He's
okay,
a bit-
Maybe we do the
you can
church.
potter around. Would you point out the markings
Bashwood.
to Father Lucian?
Bashwood. Oh,
No, if you do that, I'm going to go, oh, well, actually, as it turns out, I think that might just be rats. That was a mistake. I'm going to
Wait, okay. Fine. Right. Jolly good.
We finished it.
Are you quite well?
No.
Oh,
Look at me.
okay.
Look at me. I've got vines growing out of my head.
We see strange things. All are welcome in the
Not as
church.
many as I see.
All are welcome in the church. It is all embracing. It is all embracing. All are welcome.
Queenie's going to be the last
They're an
person.
abomination
Okay,
to you. It doesn't
fine.
mean they're abominations to everyone.
What would you like to do as you're leaving the room then, Queenie? If everybody else
I'd
left the
like
room.
to go to. Is it Maragich? Sorry, the sick kid?
Milovich, yeah?
Milovich. I'd like to say Milovich.
Your God is not God.
You're a good lad, and I'd like to throw you 30 gold coins.
Didn't we just give this orphanage a bunch of gold?
As the orphanage.
I feel like comparatively to Raindor, we are like throwing around money. Like, there's no much
Alright.
Like Raindor was like, holy shit.
Because people are like well off in Randall, whereas here they're like.
You're also
No, it's
level
the opposite.
17 and have like kings and queens at your back at this point.
I was
At-
thinking the opposite. Like,
at
how
level
we only
6
Randall
you have
we
no
didn't have
money.
much money.
I only
No.
own like 3
Up at the front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
also once
Yeah.
you join.
That's only because he's stolen loads of
Yeah,
it.
so much. Yeah.
He's stolen it all and then given it out, largely.
I want to give.
He's-
I want to give
And
you
this is
that money.
Barovia, whereas then, like, think of Padre, right? Like, how much money did Padre
Do you know about this?
Ethelway's our business.
Yeah.
So should
Well,
we go to church?
he does a good trade. He's the only guy in town who makes coffins. So like anyone who dies has to go to him. He's a bit strange.
Kind of strange.
Well, everyone in Barovia can be a bit strange. He just sort of like, he keeps himself to himself. I don't know why you would want a skull. I mean, if you wanted a skull, like he does all the dead bodies.
This was a very
This
special.
is going to resign after you do your sermon.
Oh,
I'm not even for
and his face falls. And
You went to-
candles light up.
oh, I thought it was strange because like he does all the dead bodies for like the whole of Volaki. He could have as many skulls as he wants,
Quite.
but 50 gold pieces buys a lot of bread.
It buys a lot of bread. I understand. I
I
have
can
more
make the
bread.
candles.
Alright,
So
okay.
when the candles go
Um,
light up,
Oh,
notice
yes.
these things.
Roll straight intelligence on your rat check.
Straight intelligence.
Yeah.
Is not a nice thing. That's a 4.
Okay, that's fine. You're actually, the more you look at it, the more it looks like rats. Actually, you're starting to think it probably is rats. And in a certain light, it's definitely like rats.
Okay. Well, the next thing I was going to ask the kid is
Yeah.
if they knew anything about the markings I saw on the bed.
And he looks at those and he just goes, that it's the first time you see him look angry. He's looked a bit nonplussed. He's looked like a bit, I don't know why Henrik wants a skull. He can have any skull he wants. He's the only funeral director in town, kind of thing. And now he's like, he's bloody been in here. This is my room.
Who's he?
Felix, that little shit, has been in here with his knife. Just whittle stuff all the time. He's been whittling in my bedpost. Bastard. Oh, get him.
I'm going to get. I have a dagger or something. I'm going to just scratch out the whistles just so the symbols aren't there, just in case they've got anything lingering.
And he's like, what? You like scratching other people's stuff as well?
No, but I don't think we should leave those scratches there. I think there's nothing good that'll come of it.
All you ever see that kid doing is playing with that knife and like scraping bits of wood and scratching in this and scratching in that.
It gave the orphan a knife. No, that doesn't.
When he pulls out sandpaper in a block.
You have to care for the wood.
If the tweet's like, who said anything about kids with price? No. All children should have
So
that.
markings.
Okay.
Alright, that's good.
What was it on the deep
Accepted
secret that I saw?
portion.
Alright.
You've got a good head on your shoulders. Don't.
There was like the
Maybe stay at churches.
I'm not going to stay
No,
out.
I mean don't like take things from churches. You know?
That was good.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have taken anything valuable, like, a chalice or like with the communion wine or anything, anything important, just a bit dusty old bones.
Bodies are kind of important.
Oh, no, I treat the bodies with respect. I dig their graves.
Yeah.
I mean, these were just like really old and dusty. And if somebody wants 50 gold for them, buys a lot of bread.
Right. Can you open it off?
Yeah. You get that the overall intelligence of Milovich is probably not, even with the questioning, is not really
this kid is a
putting it together that...
Yeah, he's not going to be like told he's
One of my favourite animals to follow.
So 9:45, I'm aware that we're stopping at 10. So it's sort of early afternoon. You've got an hour or so. If you want to go and have a look and find out where this coffin shop is and see what's going on in town, Harleen's wandered off back to Blinsky's.
I want to spend the hour before the service just like riding on
I'll be looking for a jewel.
Pardon?
I'll be looking for a jewel.
You want to find a jeweler? Okay.
Do any of the puppets resemble like people I've possibly seen on the street sort of thing? Like, are they...
Is there one that looks like you?
No. I know there's one that looks like me. But I mean, other people in
Okay.
the town.
Okay.
Puppets look
The-
like anyone I've seen in the town. I don't know, just kind of
So
figure out
as
if
you're,
he
so
takes
is your
inspiration from people
okay. So
or-
you're watching Blinsky's
Yeah.
Punch and Judy show.
Yeah.
Okay. You see him. There's nobody you recognise. There appears to be a little bit of giggling. Blinsky appears to be able to get away with a degree of irreverence that nobody else seems to be brave enough to show. So yeah. So there's this sort of red-coated, slightly portly marionette going, "All is well. Come to the festival. All is welcome." There's a lot of sniggering going on behind Hans, and the guards are sort of, ooh. And then there's another one in a sort of long black dress with a sort of this headdress going, "Come read books and join the elite set of Malachi." And there's a little bit of sniggering about that. And there's certainly a little bit of irreverence about the upper crust in Valachi playing to an audience of the people of Valachi. Well, the other thing he appears to be able to do is he appears to be able to play these puppets and then have one going and start putting out sort of toys, and then he'll sort of stop for a little while and go, "Oh, it's the magic of the toys, no funny, no Blinsky," and he pulls out some of these ridiculous sort of little puppets. It's got little wooden arms that come up across the face, and it's on one side. It sort of springs open, and it's got this horrible, terrified sort of child visiting. You can hear all these little children going, "Ah!" And then on the other side, it's got like the face of a wolf and things like that. It's got all of these toys appear to be somewhat creepy, but really well crafted, really beautifully made. He seems pretty talented. And every now and again you notice him looking back and, being a bit sad and looking at the state of his shop and go, "Oh, it will take me days and days to make my shop all beautiful. Oh, poor Blinsky, no fun with the broken shop, no Blinsky." And he sort of then goes back to trying to entertain his crowd and sort of hawk his wares. As you guys come into town, there is you go to the shop that sells the very fancy silks, and it sells musical instruments and things like that. And they have one or two gemstones there. Not very many by any means. They do have a pearl. They also have some pretty nice sort of lutes and flutes and other musical instruments, and some bolts of sort of quite nice cloth. Can I help you, sir?
I'm actually looking for a pearl.
Okay, we have one or two here. Not much call for them, really.
I don't suspect it's the item.
Brings out a little tray, and there are sort of 3 pearls of sort of various sizes. The very small, almost a seed pearl, one in the middle, slightly better, and then one beautiful, perfectly round, really beautiful sort of lustrous surface.
How much are these pearls?
Well, this one down here, this would be this tiny little one. Very lovely, maybe for the edge of a ring or a brooch, maybe. Would be 75 gold pieces. This one in the middle would be 125 gold pieces. And this beautiful specimen here would be 450 gold pieces.
Absolutely.
No, I've got enough to. Can I take the middle one, please?
Oh, with pleasure. I mean, absolutely. Would you like it gift wrapped?
No, I'll just take it as you
Okay.
I know it's an unusual request, but I have a special use for it.
It's where the gift wraps.
Some Ron Atkinson here.
Okay. Let me see the colour of your gold, so to speak.
And I will place 125 gold pieces.
He picks up 1 or 2 at random and bites on them and puts them down again.
I assure you they're quite good.
With all due respect, there are very few people who come in here and just buy a pearl and don't even want it gift wrapped or put into a brooch or a ring or something, so I'm just checking. Do not take offence.
How much would it cost if you had it put into a piece of jewellery?
Well, it depends on the piece of jewellery, quite clearly. If you wanted it put into some silly little piece, very little money. If you wanted me to craft a beautiful silver filigree ring, it would cost you significantly more.
Just something that I can hang up a necklace.
I shall put it back again, and it disappears off. And so there's a couple of settings. So it pulls out a little tray of jewellery settings. This is the most simple, and it's just a sort of clasp. I could fit it into this for you. This silver chain here. This would set you back 10 gold pieces, and another 2 for just fitting it together for you. It would be very secure.
Done.
Would you like that gift wrapped?
If you're going to make a necklace out of it, of course I will.
Looks much happier and goes off and gets the jeweller's loop in and does some jewellery work in the back. Oh, we're with you in maybe 5-10 minutes. Very quick. Makes this beautiful piece and then puts it into this little bag and then wraps it. And then there's a bow. It takes much longer to wrap it than it took to fit it into the casing in the first place. And he presents you with this beautiful... It's sort of wrapped in almost like leaves. Quinny would really like it with sort of vines curled off it, and presents it to you very proudly. It's beautiful. A lucky person will be receiving that. Very lucky. And scoops the money off the table and. Takes it back. Is there anything else I can be doing for you, sir?
That would be perfectly all I need. But if you ever come into some diamonds, I have a friend that is absolutely looking for perfect diamonds.
Some diamonds. Oh, okay.
I know there must be a very rare commodity around. But he's the cleric of the Morning Lord, and they do come in handy in some of the stories.
I have heard such things. I may have a source who comes and goes sometimes who may be able to acquire me some diamonds. I will contact them and go looking forthwith. Will he want them gift wrapped?
Of course.
Oh, okay. Okay. I will go hunting.
It'll be
Throw a handful of iron fire at someone.
diamonds.
What the fuck?
Well, there's a second
If
bit.
I throw a handful of iron filings at someone,
As you do.
and of course,
And then
Yeah.
cast heat metal. Because
Yes.
no one seems to wear metal ever. Would that be an effective thing to do?
So, yeah.
It's like
What?
you
So
can't
if
carry around a
you,
bunch of iron filings, so it'd be a thing you could do like once or twice.
so if
I
you
just wanted
what?
to
So
get
if
more
you
use out of
manage to
spells.
effectively coat somebody in iron filings and then heat them up, yeah, I'd say you can do
Yeah,
that.
you know, you throw a bunch of iron filings when they're not getting them off them anytime soon.
No, it would be
Heat metal.
brutal.
Yeah.
Be like covered in tiny cigarette burns.
Because the problem with doing it with like a dart and stuff is that they can just get rid
Your
of the dart.
brutality. Get a liquid metal, pour it down there, throw it in there, heat it up.
I think liquid metal down the throat really does the job well enough anyway.
No. Mercury is room temperature.
And toxic.
You might go to blacksmith and look
Okay.
at it.
Yeah.
It's too slow.
So so you remember that there was a blacksmith on the village square. There was you've been to the blacksmiths before. You asked if you could have your the staff made into a hammer, and he was like, "Well, could try."
I bought a scimitar off him.
That's him. Yeah. Let's pull that up. Let's make it visible.
He's going to look for diamonds. So I've got him hunting diamonds for me.
Okay. So yeah, this place down here, that's the blacksmiths. What would you like to see if they've got in the blacksmiths?
I'll talk to the blacksmith.
About the iron filings.
Yeah, yeah, fine. I'll say,
Yeah.
And then if
some waste metal product, I'd be interested in getting this off you. So small bits of iron from the hammering process and all of that. The scrap effectively.
Oh,
Give
nobody.
you a few silver for the.
Absolutely. I mean, how much would you like?
Could you give me 3 handfuls or so in a bag? A handful in a bag?
Yes.
About 3 of those?
Yes. A strange request. Nobody ever wants our waste. I love the recycling. The recycling, amazing.
Yes.
Good idea. May I ask, what are you planning to do with it? You're not going to put me out of business and turn it into some kind of a weapon.
I'm a mage. I have some skill with magic. And I have some control over metals. Not useful for crafting anything. They're useful for warding off animals. And that sort of thing.
Oh, okay. No problem. And Thimdall, the
Could I
dwarf...
craft, I would settle down and shop like this.
Indeed, don't do that.
Not here, sir.
And he goes off and he sort of gets a sort of broom and he sweeps up the floor. And you get a bag, and in the bag there's some iron and there's some sort of bits of leather and there's some sort of bits of floor sweepings. But generally, there's quite a lot of iron. And he'll give you 3 bags of bits for.
I'll offer like 2 or 3 silver a bag. That seems generous.
That seems. He just looks at you like you've gone completely mad, and he was like, "No. This is waste. I'll give you this for 1 silver. You bought a beautiful scimitar. I can't see what on earth you would want this for." So yeah, so you have 3 bags of assorted bits of floor sweepings from the blacksmith, which includes iron. It's more iron than not.
Cool. So, my plan is to get someone to throw one of them at someone.
Yep.
Rather than
Yep.
to wait for someone to be there.
Yep. So you now have 3 bags of spurious iron filings that
Excellent. Nothing to
that
go on.
the blacksmith can't work out what
I
on
can't see
earth
this
you're
flying
planning
up
to
in my
do.
face in any way.
Not at all.
I'll throw it when the wind is blowing in my direction.
Ha!
You're blinded by your own iron filings.
Actually, there's a book series I've read where using wind magic, like using the wind, they grind up glass, very fine powder, and then spray it with the wind.
Awful.
So as it's coming to sort of the early afternoon, you can start to hear the church bell. As you wander, you actually see across the square from where Blinsky's show is going on, and Henrik von Holtz's, Vasily von Holtz's largely watched that. You do see down, it's not on the square, it's down one of the side alleys. You do see the coffin shop. The blinds are down and it's shut, with a little sign going, closed for a funeral, open tomorrow. And it looks like Henrik's been commissioned to do the funeral of the Martikov family. The shutters are tight down. All the upstairs windows are shut and the shutters are down. There's no open glass anywhere in this building. It's almost like a terraced house in a street. There's a sort of coffin propped up against a wall down the sort of in front of the shop, going high quality goods with a sign, and that's it. So you know where it is. It doesn't currently appear to be open. You hear the church bell ringing in the distance. You start to, as you're walking back through the square, the crowd starts to dissipate a bit. Blinsky looks a little bit sad when the church bell starts ringing, primarily because most of his audience starts to sort of disappear off, and Malachi is heartened to see that a good number of those people are dutifully heading towards the Church of St. Andrew, and that church is starting to fill up with people for the afternoon service. It's certainly not a funerals only kind of thing like it was in Barovian. Are you going to give us a sermon?
Yay.
You roll a performance check.
Well, I was going to do like a guess one. So he's going to run his thing.
He's going to run his church.
And
Are
then I'm
you
just gonna jump
appraising
in
him? Do you have a clipboard?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, I won't have a clipboard. I'm still
All right.
We will
Nice.
get a rest after this.
Yeah.
Cool.
You will get a rest.
Stability advantage on charisma checks.
Okay.
And small body
I'll
control.
give you a small drink of wine. So drink of this. So with your-
Alright, let them do that.
And it'll be a
Liquid
big tap
storage.
on the back.
You're going to talk to Blinsky.
Yeah, so I'm also casting. I'm casting motivational stage.
So you go.
Oh, lovely.
Excellent. You're bestowing hit points.
Everyone in the building like advantage.
And all were amazed.
and
Interesting.
thaumaturgy to make my voice burn
And I'll use
3 times the volume.
I'll use prestidigitation at certain points in the
Jesus.
speech to make the candles flare up while he's talking when he for extra emphasis.
And so I'm doing a performance check.
Church.
You can have performance check with advantage, and enhanceability, and bardic inspiration,
And some prestidigitation.
and that's what it is.
We're giving
It,
you some flair.
Enhanceability gives you advantage.
so, Jesus Christ.
Would you roll?
I'm 2 and a 4.
Throw the bardic inspiration in there.
You have to do it as well with guidance.
Throw the bardic inspiration in there as well.
So, Grammatic inspiration is this.
D6.
Okay, so that's 4, 8, 10. Yeah. So 10. Before-
We don't have any modifier for charisma.
Oh, wait, peruse now. What's peruse?
So it was a performance check. So what's
plus 1, so 11.
got you there?
That's above an average person's, and every person's above.
I suppose there's a
I've
reason
written the
Malachi
script,
didn't
so
go
you
into
don't
like
need to
speech
say.
giving area.
In Malachi, Malachi's defense,
So-
we had a break from
so-
happening.
With
So-
the thaumaturgy and like the flickers of the lights, it's going to be
Prestidigitation,
pretty
you'd be impressed. I don't know.
So everybody other than Harleen, who's sort of hung around to sort of help Blinsky tidy up his stall and engage him in conversation. I'm fairly sure Harleen after this will be like, didn't miss anything. But everybody else is kind of standing at the back,
I'm
watching.
just doing it to make my
I'm just saying this.
Watching, no. I'm envisaging that Malachi's up at the front, has been invited. You know, we're very honoured. We have somebody from the Cathedral of the Herald of the Dawn Slayers, a true cleric of the Morning Lord, and everybody's like, woo.
We're having a rest after this, aren't we? Right towards the end of your sermon. Right towards
We're
the
like
end.
throwing all spells at it.
I'm going to cast levitate on you so you rise to the base. So you just rise.
Roll again.
Roll another performance.
Also got advantage by enhanceability.
And it, with advantage.
That's
That's is that 20 or 12?
Can I guide
It's
that
an
one?
11 or a 9.
Can I guide that one as well?
That looked like a D12. So you're rolling.
You're rolling
Wow,
D12.
You're rolling D12.
That's a D12.
Okay, let's right.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, that was an 8. So that's the first one.
And on 4.
I thought I've rolled a 4 on a D12. It's not as bad.
Yeah. So 4 plus 11. Is this still performance as well?
Yeah, so it's +1.
16.
You finish on a higher note. So the speech itself
So you'll levitate.
is a little bit.
I've written a speech.
He's actually written.
Go.
Yeah. Okay.
All right then.
What the Morning Lord teaches us today with the beautiful morning sunshine illuminating over us
I'm
all
loving the fact
is
that
that
you've
hope
wasted your time
is
doing
not
this.
lost. Barovia has become a dark place and come across many dark and hard times for everyone. Death, a point towards the coffin. Illness, crime and poverty, but hope is not lost. Strive has brought hard times on the people of Barovia, and there will be more hard times to come, but the night is always darkest before the dawn. We are strong, faithful,
Starts to levitate.
enduring people. We are men and women of the morning Lord. The light will shine through the darkness and will defeat the evil once and for all. We will prevail, and Barovia will see the days of light again.
Aren't you
Have
glad you
faith
went
in the
shopping?
Morning Lord, and He will deliver.
And the candles go blue. And then go back to normal.
And if you look
If you
towards the
do
back of the room,
Oh, go on.
if you look towards the back of the room, Zephyr is laying on its thing asleep.
That's just literally just trying to make Malachi look good.
So I've just got this vision of Malachi standing there all fire and brim. So Father Lucian's a really caring, pastoral, more elderly gentleman who cares for his flock. And he's, bigged up Malachi as a visiting priest of the Herald of the Dawnslayer, as a true one of the greats from the Church of the Morning Lord has come to bestow their blessing. And there's and then this hellfire of brimstone, booming voice, levitating up, and everybody's just like. So there's this sort of, this is heavyweight for Valachi. This is like taking somebody who's just about discovered black and white movies and introducing them to Netflix.
Ultra HD 4K Netflix.
It's just it's a lot.
Your kids are gonna love it.
How many people do you get to bestow temporary hit points on out of your motivational space?
Not 1, 2, 4 sleep.
So you address ally staff or just advice theirs to exhort and inspire them to greatness.
Okay.
Do they have anything to get excited about or not? Choose up to 5 creatures with
Okay. So who are your 5?
Well,
Are you picking these guys, or are you just picking randomers from the crowd?
yeah, mostly randoms, but I will pick followers. He gets some. He'll get
Okay.
a bit of information, 'cause he needs it.
Okay, so Father Lucian and 4 randoms suddenly go.
Lucian like the Jedi and Reverend.
It's like,
Imagine suddenly getting
It's like a
5
cycle
10
burst
HP when you're a commoner. That's
yeah, you've doubled their HP. So you've got this.
Oh my golden god!
There's this old woman.
Stabbed in the chest, like,
There's this old woman that you saw praying, very dedicated. You recognised her as you went up onto the front in front of the altar to give the sermon. You recognised her as the very dedicated elderly lady who'd been praying as you walked in, who'd not left. So she's clearly been there praying and just stayed for the afternoon service. So of your randoms, she would be your pick. And she stands up straight. So she was like, she stands up straight like somebody on the front row of a faith healing masterclass.
I think you'll be Saint Malachi.
And she sort of she jumps up, and everybody's like like they've not seen old Petra move like this in 45 years, right? This little old lady. And she jumps up like a spring chicken and she goes, praise the morning Lord. And then the whole congregation are like, praise the morning Lord. Yes. It's
hear all this happening. People just suddenly just chanting.
so you can't hear this from town, but what you then hear is this church bell just ringing with a speed that seems not desperately religious. It's sort of ding 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 dong dong ding ding dong ding ding ding. And Etherdwe's in the bell tower swinging backwards and forwards on this rope. Like, he's not so much pulling it as just swinging backwards and forwards on this rope like some kind of tiny monkey. And we'll leave it there. At the beginning of next week, we'll go the ramifications of your exalted performance in Malachi. And Harleen can have a chat to Blinsky as he closes up his shop and moves on with his evening. You're all absolutely mad, but okay. That you are. You are welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. After messing up with the kid, Vash decided, I'm going to help Malachi out.
Or if you put them up on stretchers and then drop the stretcher.
Oh, I've seen that.